Coming up on today's edition of NFL Daily, the latest from a couple different NFL insiders on Terry McLaurin not being happy with the Commanders. The latest on TJ Watt, a Micah Parsons deal, and a potential Trey Smith extension. Before we dive into all of that, the most comments on today's show, whoever comments the most gets a free shout out on a future one. So flood the comment section for me right now. Let's begin with Scary Terry, who is upset with the Commanders. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler saying Terry McLaurin is, quote, not happy with where things are with an extension. That is pretty similar to Adam Schefter's reporting, and I get it from McLaurin's standpoint. Contract's coming up. It's almost over now at the end of it. Other receivers getting paid massive figures. The Commanders start camp, like the majority of teams, on July 22nd. I think a holdout, or at least a hold-in, is a very legitimate threat. I don't think that means a trade is going to happen, because if you're Washington, do you really want to run it out with Deebo Samuel and Luke McCaffrey as your top two receivers? No, of course not. You want to have McLaurin as a big part of that. But that's going to be expensive for them, because that's how the wide receiver market works when you're a top-end player. Jamar Chase making $40.25 million per year. Justin Jefferson's at 35. Lamb's at 34. Metcalf, make note of that one, is at 33. A.J. Brown's at 32. The Sun God is at 30. Brandon, narrowly ahead of Brandon Ayuk, by the way. And Tyreek Hill. Shoot, twos like T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle are making $28+ million per year. I think the biggest issue here, potential issue, is probably on the guaranteed money side. Yeah, I don't think McLaurin's asking for Jefferson or Lamb or Chase or even maybe A.J. Brown money, maybe close to it. I would look at the DK Metcalf contract, and that's the one I think Terry McLaurin is probably trying to get. They are 2 years apart in age, but in terms of, the trades, the impact, all that stuff, there's a lot of similarity here. Look, McLaurin is 2 years older than DK Metcalf. Both players have played in 97 games. Both players have 726 targets. Terry McLaurin has more catches, more yards, fewer touchdowns, fewer yards per catch by about a half yard, and fewer drops. If I were just to show you the numbers and take away the player names, some would take Metcalf because they want the touchdowns. Some would take McLaurin because they want the yards and the drops and the catches. There's arguments for both. And the way the contract market is, the second guy ends up getting paid more. So I'm sure he wants that DK Metcalf, $33 million per year contract with, $80-ish million guaranteed. I bet he wants that. So predictions. What will Washington end up doing with Scary Terry? T for trade him. P for they're going to pay him. W for they'll wait and just see how things play out. Sound off at the pinned comment of today's show. Let's head to TJ Watt. By the way, all these guys talk about, for the most part, have trade rumors. I don't think trades happen here. But Steelers reportedly have an offer out to TJ Watt. It's been mentioned by a couple of different analysts out there, but that doesn't mean a deal is close. Here's what Jeremy Fowler of ESPN said on a recent SportsCenter hit. People I've talked to around the league believe it's guaranteed money. It's term length, not the average per year. A lot of the details, they get sticky this time of the year, especially leading up to training camp. I thought someone on the team who said, look, these are complicated deals to do, but we're working on it. We want TJ Watt here. This is a situation where he's probably going to be the highest paid edge in the league when this is all said and done. It just depends on when the Steelers can do it. Typically, they like to do their deals either around training camp or leading into week one. This is far from over. That does with the Steelers' usual MO. It's not about the average per year. It's about the guaranteed. That's always been kind of the sticking point. It was a sticking point the first time TJ Watt got paid. Look, Pittsburgh's reality is this. You're all in right now. You have an old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. You've got Mike Tomlin, a defense that is among the most expensive in football. What are you going to do, not have TJ Watt as the best player on your team? Come on. You have to go pay him. You don't have really any other viable options. So I do think from an average per year perspective, APY, whenever TJ Watt gets paid, he will take over as the number one spot. Does that mean he's number one in the guaranteed money? We'll see. Myles Garrett was, but no one had beaten Nick Bosa's in kind of several years from a guaranteed money perspective. TJ Watt has an argument to be better than Myles Garrett. Those guys are often 1, 2, or 3 in some order. Get to number 3 with Micah Parsons in a little bit. Of the best edge rushers. So yeah, he's going to get paid. I think this deal gets done. It might take a little bit. There's not going to be any trade. But I do think the TJ Watt deal eventually gets finalized. Speaking of TJ Watt and other players, these NFL number shirts are available on sale. They were $39. Now they're just $10. Got Joe Burrow, got Dak Prescott, variety of other players as well. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's chatsports.com/NFL shirt. That's chatsports.com/NFL shirt. One hand, you got TJ Watt. The other, Micah Parsons. Both players in line to be the highest paid non-QBs in football, at least for the time being. Maybe Aiden Hutchinson beats them, this time next year. ESPN's Fowler again reports the Cowboys no rush to work on a deal. Says this is kind of a relaxed situation, Fowler says. When I talk to people involved, they're like, it's a lull in the summer right now. Not a lot going on. People are on vacation. Team officials are out there on the beach somewhere. The Jones Boys Yachts is in the Mediterranean Sea, by the way. Once they reconvene for training camp, Dallas probably lock in on this a little bit more. Typically, they do their deals late in the calendar. Late August, early September. We've seen that with CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, some of their other big deals. They are dedicated to doing this, though. Who gets paid first? And then who ends up being the highest paid gets paid second, obviously. TJ for TJ Watt, MP for Micah Parsons. This is pretty par for the course for the Cowboys. They always seem to find a way to be last in line with these contract extensions and end up paying more than everybody else ends up paying. Look, Mike and his agent are in no rush. They already won the PR game with their public campaign to get paid early, which didn't happen. The Jones boys and Micah months ago had a now it's not secret meeting at the Star. They went over contract terms. They were pretty much lined on this is what it will take. They knew, both sides knew, it's going to be about this. This was post-Myles Garrett deal. Micah said, all right, cool, call my agent. They never called the agent. Why? Shit, I wish I knew. Couldn't tell you. It doesn't make any sense. There's no logical reason behind it. But it's the Cowboys. We know how this story plays out. It'll get done. It'll be a record-setting contract. It'll be the contract we knew Micah Parsons was going to get months ago. It'll just have extra drama tacked onto it. Why? It's just the Cowboys' way. Is that a good way of doing business? No. But that is the way it often gets done. Folks, we are 102 subs away from 413,000 here on Chat Sports. Help us get there. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. I almost said Cowboys Report. Clearly NFL Daily. All right, let's go to Trey Smith. This actually has a deadline here. There's no, potential one. There's a firm and fast deadline of the franchise tag extension deadline coming up here on July 15th. That is ticking. Our boy Pretty Ricky, the People's Insider, who was right on the Jalen Ramsey trade most recently. So the Chiefs have until July 15th, 4 p.m. Eastern, that is all correct, to get that deal done with Trey Smith. He reports the Chiefs are on the goal line of getting that deal finalized. I would anticipate, we'll go over why in a little bit here, that once this deal is finalized, Trey Smith will become the highest paid guard in the NFL. Do you think that ends up being the case? Sound off for me in the comments section of today's show. Y for yes, N for no. I want to start, and we'll spend time on this one because it's kind of complicated, the highest paid guards per year. It says Trey Smith is already the highest paid guard per year. That's the franchise tag. The franchise tag for offensive linemen, to be blunt, is stupid. It is not just the 5 highest paid guards or centers or tackles individually. It's just the 5 highest paid overall, which means it's the 5 highest paid tackles. So for guards, it doesn't make any sense. The Chiefs used it as a placeholder with a surprise jump in the salary cap, kind of ruined some other teams' hopes of him hitting the open market. Because the tag's already $23 million, I don't know why Smith would settle for much less than at least number 1 highest paid guard. Maybe he settles for 21.5, 22. I could still see 23 and him resetting the market in that area in a way that hasn't been done before. What I do want to see happen is, and I'm kind of curious here too, what's the guaranteed money look like? What does that figure end up cracking in at? Because Robert Hunt went 5 years, and in general, the longer you go, the more years you add, the more guaranteed money, the more average per year you end up adding. Does he get to the $65 million figure? Or is it high APY, lower guaranteed, or vice versa? That number is what I am most curious to see how things play out. But look, the cap keeps going up, and contracts keep going up as a result.